So count off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I bet that most of you here today in this room at one time or another during your school career have been forced to wear a uniform in order to attend a specific school. I know I did. I attended a Catholic primary school in an environment and community in which having school uniforms is completely normal and almost required for a school to function properly. At the time, I found uniforms to be quite boring. I thought that they were constraint within which we had to fall. And I surely never knew I would grow up and go off to school and end up missing them. How many of you have woken up in the morning and looked at your closet and your floor and thought to yourself, I have nothing to wear? A lot of us do it. And having a school uniform greatly helps with that and many other problems. Now, I'm not saying that every school in every state should have uniforms. For example, I think that once you reach an age at which you don't break down in tears with a fashion crisis just because you can't find your favorite pair of jeans, you should be given much more freedom on what you wear in a work or school environment. It is that at that point that you make mature decisions for yourself. You should know how to dress appropriately for where you are going and what your objective is once you get there. I'm not here to tell you that every school should have uniforms and that it's just the way it should be. Instead, I would like to discuss how uniforms in school make a better, more focused learning environment for students around the world of varying ages and social groups. Uniforms, for the longest time, have been thought and seen as a Catholic school thing. However, in 1980, that all changed. In 1980, public schools were often being compared unfavorably to Catholic schools. The only major difference was the integration of religion and the use of uniforms in the learning environment. It was at that time that school uniforms started popping up in public schools in urban areas around the country. President Clinton later, in 1996, stated that if it means teenagers will stop killing each other over designer jackets, then our public schools should be able to require a student to wear a school uniform. That brings me to another point: dressing for success. People tend to respect people more and more formal speaking and acting when people are dressed nicely. For example, businessmen, lawyers, and other high-powered people around the world dress in nice clothing to simply go to work. Uniforms get kids used to getting dressed up to go and do everyday activities. Uniforms is nice coordinating colors can make the student body look more professional and sophisticated. It eliminates the needs and wants of young kids for expensive designer clothing and just because everyone else has it. Some argue that forcing students to wear uniforms takes away their ability to express their individuality, but they can still do that through jewelry, through hair, through shoes, and through the greatest accessory, their personality. Let's talk about economics for a second. Many schools and parent boards are claiming that they do not want uniforms in their schools because of economical stress that it places on the family when they are required to buy certain clothing from certain vendors just so their kid can go to school. Many schools have developed a uniform exchange program where families only have to buy a certain amount of new uniforms for their kids. And the schools run basically a big uniform room where parents can bring their kids' old clothes that no longer fit and can get new clothes that fit their kids at no cost to them. For some schools, uniforms are a way to make kids blend together better appeal-wise. Some schools are so diverse economically that kids feel the need to steal or borrow high-end clothing from retail stores or others just so that they can fit in and look the way other kids look. Now, some cons. Some schools argue that to enforce uniforms is a quite difficult task. To some larger public and private schools, some schools have even gone as far to say that uniforms violate a student's right to freedom and expression, and that students dressed in a uniform tend to be targets to bullies from other schools. Virginia Dre, assistant professor at Youngstown State University, reviewed attendance, graduation, and proficiency pass rates for 64 public schools in the state of Ohio. Her final analysis surprised her. I really went into this thinking uniforms didn't make a difference, but I came away seeing that they do. At least at these schools, they do. I was absolutely floored. Drea's study concluded that these schools with uniform policies improved in attendance, graduation, and suspension rates. Obviously, if graduation rates are rising because of the use of uniforms, someone has done something right, change-wise. A rising graduation rate decreases in cliques and gangs, and the ability to identify students alone is a good reason to implement uniforms into a school. It is a matter of security at that point. The security of the school and everything and everyone in it. Adding simplicity to a student's life is always a good thing. It reduces stress and rushing in the mornings. Add on some professional security, safety, and the fact that a student doesn't have to worry about which brand of jacket she wore today is an awesome thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,